If you're already afraid of the ocean, don't watch this video. It will only intensify your fear and might even cause trauma. On the other hand, if you love the sea, this video could make you think twice about venturing into the water again. We'll be sharing stories of how sharks cause not just physical harm, but also emotional distress to those who explore the sea. The Garcia family had been looking forward to vacationing for months. Sam, Tracy, and their 3 children, Brown, Martin, and Isla, had saved up and planned meticulously for their trip to Hawaii. It wasn't just about relaxation. It was about creating memories, escaping the rush of daily life, and experiencing something extraordinary together. They had chosen Hawaii for its famed coral reefs and crystal-clear waters, ideal for snorkeling. Sam, an avid diver in his youth, wanted to share his love for the ocean with his family. Tracy, always eager for adventure, eagerly agreed. Brown, the eldest at 17, and Martin, a typical 12-year-old full of curiosity, were thrilled at the prospect of exploring underwater worlds. Isla, the youngest at 8, was a bundle of energy, bubbling with excitement at the thought of seeing colorful fish and sea turtles she had watched in documentaries up close. The decision to take a snorkeling trip to a remote coral reef seemed like the perfect adventure. Before leaving New Jersey, the family booked a tour with a reputable local company that promised an unforgettable experience away from the usual tourist spots. The day they landed in Hawaii, they were offered little to no adventure, mainly because they arrived late in the evening. Their tour guide helped them settle in a hotel and promised to come back the next day to kick off a memorable vacation. The adventure kicked off in full gear as they explored several areas on the island, tasting various dishes and local delicacies. On the 4th day, they were presented with the opportunity to dive in one of Hawaii's beaches. As they sailed away from the shore, Sam felt a sense of contentment seeing his family so happy. Tracy snapped photos. Brown eagerly chatted with the guide about marine life, while Isla bounced around, asking a million questions about everything she saw. Arriving at the reef, they donned their snorkeling gear and slipped into the water. It was like entering another world, tranquil and mesmerizing. Schools of fish darted around them. Vibrant corals swayed gently with the current, and rays of sunlight filtered down, illuminating the underwater landscape in a surreal glow. For the next hour, they swam together, marveling at the beauty beneath the surface. Sam kept a close eye on Isla, gently guiding her along and pointing out different fish and corals. Tracy and Brown ventured a little farther, exploring nooks and crannies of the reef, while Martin, entranced by a sea turtle he spotted, followed it at a respectful distance. But then, as they rounded a corner of the reef, the tranquil scene shattered. A shadow swept over the coral bed, casting a sudden darkness. At first, Sam thought it was a trick of light, but then he saw it, an oversized silhouette gliding effortlessly through the water. It was a tiger shark, unmistakable with its distinct markings and powerful presence. Fear clenched Sam's heart as he remembered tales of these apex predators. He knew they frequented these waters, drawn by the abundance of marine life. Frantically, he motioned to his family. Tracy, sensing his urgency, quickly gathered the children close. Brown's eyes widened in disbelief as he saw the shark approaching, its movements sleek and predatory. Martin, catching sight of the shark, froze in place, his earlier excitement turning to sheer terror. Isla, sensing the tension, clung to Sam, her eyes wide with fear. The guide, sensing the danger, blew a sharp blast on his whistle, signaling everyone to return to the boat immediately. But the ship seemed impossibly far away now. Panic threatened to overwhelm them as they realized they were trapped in the shark's hunting grounds. With trembling hands, they began to swim back, every stroke fueled by sheer terror. The shark, sensing their movements, began to circle closer. Its presence seemed to fill the water around them, its sleek form cutting through the waves with deadly grace. Sam urged his family onward, his voice urgent yet steady. Tracy held Isla tightly, whispering words of reassurance despite her rising fear. Brown and Martin swam with all their strength, their minds racing with thoughts of survival. The minutes stretched into eternity as they fought their way back to the boat. The shark, sensing their desperation, became bolder, its movements more purposeful. Sam could feel its presence behind them, a relentless force driving them forward. Just as they neared the boat, disaster struck. Martin, exhausted and overwhelmed, faltered in his strokes. His mask slipped and he gasped for air, momentarily losing sight of the others. Panic seized Sam as he saw Martin struggling, vulnerable in the water. He called out to him, his voice raw with fear and desperation. Tracy, hearing Sam's cry, turned back, her heart pounding in her chest. With a surge of adrenaline, she swam back to Martin, her maternal instincts overriding her terror. She reached him just as the shark closed in, its jaws snapping dangerously close. In a heartbeat decision, Tracy pushed Martin towards Sam and Isla, shouting for them to keep moving. With a fierce determination, she turned to face the shark, her body trembling with fear, but her mind focused on protecting her family. The shark, sensing an easier target, turned towards Tracy, its eyes fixed on her. With every ounce of strength, Tracy kicked and thrashed, creating a barrier between the shark and her family. Sam, seeing Tracy's bravery, felt a surge of gratitude and fear. He reached the boat with Brown and Isla, pulling them aboard with trembling hands. Isla clung to him, tears streaming down her face as she watched her mother bravely face the shark without any weapon. The guide, seeing Tracy's predicament, grabbed a pole from the boat and dove into the water. With swift, practiced movements, he jabbed at the shark, diverting its attention away from Tracy. The shark, startled by the sudden assault, veered away, disappearing into the depths. Tracy, her strength fading, swam back to the boat, her heart pounding with relief and exhaustion. Sam pulled her aboard, holding her tightly as they collapsed in a tangle of limbs and tears. As they sailed back to shore, the adrenaline slowly ebbed away, leaving them shaken but alive. They huddled together, clinging to each other as if their lives depended on it, because at that moment they knew it did. The rest of their vacation passed in a blur of quiet reflection and a renewed appreciation for each other. They returned home with a newfound closeness, forever marked by their harrowing encounter with the shark and Tracy's unyielding courage. As they settled back into their daily lives, they carried with them a shared story of survival. Erik Nordstrom had spent his entire life on the icy waters of the Norwegian Sea. A rugged man in his early 50s with weathered hands and a face etched by the elements, he was as much a part of the sea as the ancient fjords that surrounded his hometown of Tromsø. Fishing was in his blood, passed down through generations of Nordstrom men who had braved these waters in search of their livelihood. On a crisp morning in late autumn, Erik set out alone in his sturdy fishing boat. The sea was calm, a sheet of glass reflecting the soft hues of the sunrise. Erik's breath misted in the chilly air as he navigated through the labyrinthine fjords, his keen eyes scanning the horizon for signs of fish. His goal was modest, enough cod and haddock to sell at the local market. He knew these waters like the lines on his weathered palms, every cove and rocky outcrop a familiar landmark. But what he didn't anticipate was stumbling into the territory of a pod of orcas. As Erik dropped his lines over the side of the boat, his mind wandered. He thought of his wife Liv back at their cozy cottage nestled among pine trees overlooking the fjord. Liv was a kind soul, a steady presence in his life. They had no children of their own, but Erik cherished their quiet life together, punctuated by the rhythms of the sea. Lost in his thoughts, Erik didn't notice the dark shadows gliding beneath the surface. The sleek and powerful orcas had been hunting in these waters for generations. They were intelligent predators known for their tight-knit social structure and formidable hunting skills. Unbeknownst to Erik, he had unwittingly drifted into their hunting grounds. The first clue of danger came when Erik felt a sharp tug on his fishing line. Startled, he pulled it up, expecting to see a struggling cod. Instead, to his horror, he saw a large male orca thrashing at the end of the line, its dorsal fin nicked by the hook. Erik's heart sank. He had never meant to harm these magnificent creatures. In his haste to earn a living, he had inadvertently injured one of them. The orca, in pain and confusion, let out a haunting cry that echoed across the fjord, a mournful sound that sent shivers down Erik's spine. Immediately, the atmosphere changed. The pod of orcas, alerted by the distress call of their companion, turned their attention towards Erik's boat. Suddenly, the tranquil morning was shattered by their powerful presence. Erik knew he was in grave danger. Orcas were known for their intelligence and their ability to coordinate attacks. He had heard tales from other fishermen whispered in hushed tones over glasses of aquavit in taverns. Stories of boats rammed, nets shredded, and men lost to the icy depths. Desperation surged through Eric as he scrambled to reel in his lines and start the engine. But the orcas were already closing in, their sleek forms cutting through the water with lethal precision. He could hear them now, a chorus of clicks and whistles and hits that reverberated through the hull of his boat. Eric tries to deter the orcas away by changing his direction. His heart pounded in his chest as he navigated through narrow channels and rocky shoals. The orcas were close behind, their intelligence evident in the way they anticipated his every move. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse, played out on the frigid waters of the Norwegian Sea. He spotted a narrow inlet to his right, a potential refuge from the orcas' onslaught. With a surge of hope, he steered the boat towards it, praying it would provide enough cover to evade his pursuers. The engine strained against the powerful currents, the ship lurching forward as if urging him to escape faster. But luck was not on his side. Just as he approached the mouth of the inlet, one of the orcas slammed into the boat once more, sending a shudder through its frame. Eric clenched his teeth against the pain of impact, his head snapping back and colliding with the iron side of the boat. Stars burst behind his eyes, momentarily blinding him to the danger surrounding him. The orcas circled back, their whistles echoing eerily through the air. Eric fought through the dizziness, his hands gripping the wheel with renewed determination. He couldn't afford to lose focus now. He drove deeper as the inlet offered some protection from the orcas' direct assaults. But Eric knew he couldn't stay hidden forever. He needed a plan, a way to shake off his relentless pursuers once and for all. Glancing around, he spotted a small cove up ahead, hidden from view by a jutting cliff face. Without hesitation, he steered the boat towards the cove, his movements swift and precise. The orcas followed close behind, their powerful tails propelling them through the water with astonishing speed. Eric gritted his teeth, his mind racing as he calculated his next move. As the boat entered the cove, Eric cut the engine and allowed it to drift silently towards the rocky shore. The orcas, momentarily confused by the sudden disappearance of their prey, hesitated at the mouth of the cove. Eric held his breath, praying they wouldn't detect his presence hiding in the shadows. Minutes ticked by like hours as Eric waited, his senses strained for any sign of movement from the orcas. Gradually, the sounds of their clicks and whistles faded into the distance. They had moved on, convinced that Eric had slipped through their grasp once again. Relief flooded through him, mingled with a bone-deep exhaustion that threatened to pull him under. He leaned back against the boat's hull, his hands shaking as he wiped sweat from his brow. The adrenaline that had fueled him through the harrowing chase now ebbed away, leaving behind a profound sense of vulnerability. He sailed out of the cove and headed toward the nearest lagoon. Eric collapsed against the helm, his hands trembling with exhaustion and relief. He had narrowly escaped the jaws of death thanks to his skill and a healthy dose of luck. But the ordeal wasn't over yet. He still had to find a way back to Tromsø, to live and the safety of their cottage. Carefully, Eric checked the extent of the damage to his boat. The side where the orca had struck bore a deep dent, a stark reminder of how close he had come to disaster. He ran a hand over the damaged metal, his thoughts drifting to the vastness of the sea and the creatures that called it home. As Eric caught his breath, he felt a deep sense of awe and respect for the orcas. They were creatures of immense power and intelligence, guardians of these cold northern waters. He knew he had intruded upon their territory and, in injuring one of them, had unwittingly provoked their wrath. Slowly, Eric started the engine and began the journey back to Tromsø. He got to Tromsø that evening, his boat laden with a little catch of cod and haddock. Liv greeted him at the dock, her face etched with worry of his lateness. As they embraced, Eric recounted his harrowing encounter with the orcas, leaving out no detail of the deadly game of cat and mouse. That night, as they sat by the crackling fire in their cozy cottage, Eric and Liv listened to the wind howling outside. They were safe now, wrapped in warmth and each other's presence. But Eric knew he would always carry the memory of the incident with him. Dr. Jonathan Anderson, a seasoned marine biologist from the United States, had dedicated his life to unraveling the mysteries of the ocean's depths. His career had taken him from the frigid waters of the Arctic to the coral reefs of the South Pacific. Still, the allure of the Pacific's Mariana Trench remained an irresistible challenge. When an opportunity arose to join an international deep-sea exploration mission, he seized it without hesitation. Alongside Dr. Anderson was Dr. Aoife O'Malley, an oceanographer renowned in her field from Ireland. Her expertise lies in underwater geology, and her keen interest in tectonic activity and marine formations made her an invaluable member of the team. Dr. Rajesh Kumar, a marine biologist from India, brought with him a deep-seated curiosity about the ecology of deep-sea organisms. His research focused on the adaptations of marine life to extreme pressures and temperatures. Completing the crew was Dr. Mehmet Yilmaz, an accomplished engineer from Turkey, who was responsible for designing and maintaining the submersible that would carry them into the abyss. Their expedition was meticulously planned. Equipped with state-of-the-art technology and instruments, the team embarked on their journey into the depths of the Mariana Trench. The submersible descended slowly, the ocean darkening around them as they passed through layers of twilight and into the eternal night of the abyssal plain. As they reached a depth of over 6,000 meters, the submersible's sensors detected a large object approaching from the darkness ahead. Dr. Anderson's pulse quickened as he watched the screens. Anticipation mingled with a hint of trepidation. The outline of an enormous creature materialized, a giant squid, its tentacles swirling with sinuous grace. Dr. O'Malley whispered the creature's identity as it came into view, her breath catching in awe at the rare sight. Dr. Kumar adjusted the cameras, capturing images of the giant squid in its natural habitat. Its eyes, large and unblinking, reflected the submersible's lights with an eerie luminosity. Dr. Yilmaz adjusted the submersible's position, trying to maintain a safe distance while allowing the crew to study the squid's behavior. The atmosphere inside the submersible shifted from wonder to alarm when the giant squid suddenly surged forward. Its tentacles, each lined with powerful suckers, reached out with surprising speed and accuracy. Dr. Yilmaz couldn't maneuver the submersible away from the strike, and the submersible got rammed. The creature persisted in its aggressive approach. The impact reverberated through the hull, causing the crew to brace themselves against the violent jolts. Hours passed in a tense struggle as the giant squid continued its relentless assault. Dr. Anderson and Dr. Kumar studied the creature's movements despite the ongoing attack, searching for patterns or weaknesses they could exploit. Dr. O'Malley monitored the submersible's exterior cameras, noting the damage inflicted by the squid's powerful tentacles. Dr. Yilmaz worked feverishly to maintain the submersible's integrity, his expertise crucial in keeping their fragile lifeline intact amidst the chaos. With each passing minute, their situation grew more precarious. The submersible's oxygen levels dwindled, a stark reminder of their limited time in the abyss. Dr. Anderson activated the distress beacon, hoping their signal would reach the surface and summon assistance. Dr. Kumar calculated their options, weighing the risks of evasive maneuvers against the ever-present danger of provoking the giant squid further. Dr. O'Malley remained vigilant, her eyes scanning the murky depths for any sign of a reprieve. Outside, the abyss stretched endlessly, a vast, uncharted realm that seemed to mock their struggle for survival. The giant squid, a silent sentinel of the deep, showed no signs of fatigue or retreat. Its intelligence was evident in the way it anticipated its movements, adjusting its strategy with each failed attempt to escape its grasp. Dr. Kumar proposed a daring plan, a distraction to buy them precious moments to break free. Dr. Anderson and Dr. O'Malley supported the idea, their minds racing with possibilities as they prepared to execute the risky maneuver. O'Malley activated the submersible's external lights, flooding the surrounding darkness with blinding brightness. The giant squid recoiled momentarily, its sensitive eyes blinking against the sudden assault of light. It was a small victory, but enough to encourage Dr. Yilmaz to initiate the escape plan. With precision honed by years of experience, he redirected the submersible's thrusters to full power, propelling them forward with unexpected speed. The sudden movement caught the giant squid off guard, disrupting its hold just enough for the submersible to slip free. Dr. Anderson shouted encouragement as they surged ahead, leaving the giant squid behind in a swirl of dark water and tangled tentacles. Their escape was fraught with tension as they navigated through the labyrinthine depths of the Mariana Trench. Dr. Yilmaz monitored the submersible systems, ensuring they remained operational despite the damage sustained during the encounter. Dr. Anderson studied the sonar readings, alert for any signs of pursuit from the giant squid or other unknown dangers lurking in the abyss. At the same time, Dr. O'Malley maintained a vigilant watch over the external cameras, her eyes scanning the shadowy depths for any potential threats. Hours later, the submersible breached the surface, its battered hull gleaming in the sunlight. A rescue vessel, alerted by their distress beacon, approached swiftly. Dr. Anderson relayed their coordinates, his voice calm despite the exhaustion etched on his face. Back on board the rescue vessel, the crew gathered in the mess hall, their adrenaline-fueled ordeal now a story to be shared. They laughed and exchanged tales of their narrow escape, each recounting their role in the dramatic events that had unfolded in the darkest depths of the Pacific Ocean. Dr. Jonathan Anderson raised his glass in a toast to his fellow crew members. They had faced the abyss together and emerged stronger, their bond forged by fire in the most unforgiving environment known to man. As the rescue vessel sailed back toward civilization, the crew looked out at the vast expanse of the ocean, a realm both beautiful and treacherous. They knew they would return one day, driven by a shared passion for exploration and a deep respect for the mysteries that lurked beneath the waves. Allen, Richmond, Martinez, and Ross were seasoned scuba divers, drawn together by their shared passion for exploring the mysteries of the Caribbean Sea. On a bright morning, they embarked on an expedition to explore an underwater cave system off the coast of a remote island. Equipped with state-of-the-art diving gear and years of experience, they descended into the azure waters with a mix of excitement and anticipation. The entrance to the cave system was hidden beneath a curtain of swaying kelp, a gateway to an underwater world untouched by sunlight as they navigated through the twisting passages. Beams of sunlight filtered through cracks in the rocky ceiling, casting ethereal patterns on the sandy seabed below. Allen led the group, his steady pace guiding them deeper into the labyrinthine caves. Richmond followed closely behind, his keen eyes scanning the walls for signs of ancient carvings or hidden chambers. Martinez and Ross brought up the rear, their senses heightened by the thrill of discovery and the serenity of the underwater landscape. Inside the caves, the water was calm and still, a stark contrast to the bustling marine life just beyond the entrance. Schools of colorful fish darted through the crystal-clear water, their scales shimmering in the gentle current. Coral formations adorned the cave walls, their intricate shapes a testament to centuries of natural artistry. The divers paused at intervals to marvel at the beauty around them. Martinez pointed out a family of seahorses nestled among swaying sea fans, their delicate forms blending seamlessly with their surroundings. Ross captured the scene on his underwater camera, and his passion for underwater photography is evident in every frame. As they ventured deeper into the cave system, the light grew dimmer and the passages narrowed. Allen consulted his dive computer to ensure they maintained a safe depth and air supply. Richmond examined the cave's geological features, noting the formations of stalactites and stalagmites that adorned the cavernous ceilings and floors. Suddenly, the tranquil atmosphere was shattered by a disturbance in the water ahead. Allen signaled for the group to halt, his hand gripping the handle of his dive knife instinctively. Richmond and Martinez exchanged cautious glances, their senses on high alert. A shadowy figure emerged from the depths, a school of barracudas, their sleek bodies slicing through the water with lethal grace. Drawn by the gleam of reflective diving gear and the scent of a recent catch, they descended upon the unsuspecting divers with lightning speed. The barracudas, known for their aggressive nature and formidable teeth, circled the divers menacingly. Allen, remaining calm under pressure, gestured for the group to move slowly toward a nearby alcove in the cave wall. Richmond and Martinez followed his lead, their movements deliberate and controlled. Ross, keeping his camera at the ready, captured the tense standoff between predator and prey. The divers instinctively backed towards the cave wall, hoping to present a smaller target. But the barracudas were relentless, their eyes locked onto the divers with predatory intent. In a sudden flurry of motion, one of the barracudas lunged at Martinez, its jaws snapping inches from his arm. With a cry of alarm, Martinez kicked out, narrowly avoiding the razor-sharp teeth. But another barracuda, encouraged by the chaos, struck at Richmond, its bite finding purchase on his leg. Pain seared through Richmond as he thrashed against the barracuda's grip, his hand groping for his diving knife. Allen and Ross reacted swiftly, their dive lights trained on the aggressive fish in a desperate attempt to ward them off. The cave reverberated with the muffled sounds of struggle as the divers fought to protect themselves. With adrenaline-fueled determination, Allen slashed at the barracudas with his knife, driving them back momentarily. Ross managed to pull Martinez away from the encroaching predators, their collective efforts buying them precious seconds of reprieve. But the barracudas, undeterred by the divers' resistance, continued their relentless assault. Allen felt a sharp pain in his calf as another barracuda grazed him, drawing blood through his wetsuit. Fear and urgency gripped the group as they realized they were running out of options. Frantically, Ross spotted a small fissure in the cave wall, barely wide enough to squeeze through. Without hesitation, he gestured to the others, shouting over the din of the underwater chaos. Martinez, clutching his injured arm, nodded in understanding, his face pale with pain. Together, the divers made a break for the fissure, their movements hampered by the swirling mass of barracudas. Allen and Richmond, bleeding and shaken, pushed themselves through the narrow opening, their hearts racing with the desperate hope of escape. Martinez followed, his injured arm throbbing with each exertion, while Ross covered their retreat, fending off the barracudas as best he could. With a final burst of speed, the divers squeezed through the fissure one by one, emerging into the open waters beyond. The barracudas, unable to follow, hovered at the entrance to the cave, their sleek forms outlined against the dim light. Gasping for breath, the divers surfaced, their chests heaving with exertion and relief. Allen counted heads, ensuring they were all accounted for amidst the chaos of their narrow escape. Richmond and Martinez exchanged a silent nod of solidarity, their bond strengthened by the harrowing experience they had shared. Ross, his hands trembling with a mix of fear and exhilaration, reviewed the images captured on his camera. Each frame told a story of survival against the odds, a testament to the indomitable spirit of exploration that had brought them together in the first place. Emergency responders were already waiting on the surface, alerted by the divers' distress signals. Allen and Richmond, their injuries severe, were immediately airlifted to the nearest hospital for urgent medical attention. Martinez and Ross, shaken but relatively unscathed, recounted their harrowing ordeal to the rescue team, their voices trembling with disbelief at the ferocity of the barracuda attack. As they were whisked away to safety, the underwater cave remained a silent witness to the primal struggle that had unfolded within its depths. The luxury yacht glided gracefully through the waters off the coast of Australia, its sleek white hull cutting through the azure waves under the warm glow of the afternoon sun. On board, the atmosphere was festive as guests mingled on deck, savoring cocktails and soaking in the breathtaking ocean views. The occasion was a celebration of success and luxury, a gathering of affluent individuals from around the world who had come together for an unforgettable evening at sea. Preparations for the party had begun days in advance. The crew meticulously polished the yacht to perfection, ensuring every detail, from the gleaming teak decks to the plush furnishings in the saloon, exuded luxury. Chef Pierre, renowned for his culinary expertise, crafted a menu that tantalized the senses. Fresh seafood, gourmet appetizers, and decadent desserts paired with fine wines and champagne. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the horizon, the party came alive. Soft music filled the air, laughter and animated conversation echoed across the deck, and the clinking of glasses punctuated the festive ambiance. Guests, dressed in their finest attire, moved effortlessly between the spacious lounge areas and the expansive outdoor deck, where the sea breeze whispered promises of adventure. Among the guests were Emma, a successful fashion designer from London with an eye for elegance, James, a venture capitalist from New York, and Sophia, a tech entrepreneur from Sydney, known for her innovative spirit and magnetic personality. The guests have forged a friendship over shared interests and mutual admiration, their paths converging on this luxurious yacht far from the demands of everyday life. As the evening progressed, the allure of the pristine waters beckoned. A group of guests, including Emma, James, and Sophia, decided to take a midnight swim under the star-studded sky. The crew lowered the swim ladder, and with a mixture of excitement and anticipation, the swimmers slipped into the cool embrace of the ocean. The water was invigorating, a soothing contrast to the warmth of the evening air. Emma and Sophia swam side by side, their laughter carrying across the gentle waves. James dove beneath the surface, reveling in the tranquility of the underwater world. Unbeknownst to the swimmers, a deadly danger lurked beneath the waves. A swarm of box jellyfish, propelled by ocean currents, had drifted into the bay under the cover of darkness. Their nearly transparent bodies pulsated with lethal toxins, their tentacles trailing behind them like sinister threads in the water. Emma felt a sudden searing pain shoot up her leg, a sharp sting that seemed to paralyze her entire body. The shock of it made her gasp involuntarily, inhaling a mouthful of seawater that burned in her throat. Panic surged through her as she realized she was being stung by a jellyfish. Its venomous tentacles wrapped around her calf. Nearby, Sophia's cry of alarm cut through the chaos of the ocean. She thrashed in the water, feeling the tendrils of agony as another jellyfish ensnared her arm. The pain was excruciating, a relentless burning that threatened to overwhelm her senses. Her attempts to pry the jellyfish off only seemed to exacerbate the pain, each touch sending fresh waves of venom coursing through her veins. James, who had been snorkeling a little distance away, surfaced at the sound of their distress. His head broke through the surface just in time to see Sophia's desperate struggle. Without hesitation, he swam towards her, intent on helping, when suddenly a jellyfish tentacle lashed out and struck him across the face. The venom seeped into the delicate skin around his eyes and mouth, a searing heat that made him cry out in pain and confusion. The three of them, now caught in the grip of the jellyfish's venom, struggled to stay afloat. The ocean, once a serene playground, now felt like a treacherous abyss intent on swallowing them whole. Emma fought against the paralysis creeping up her limbs, her muscles stiffening with each passing moment. She could hear Sophia's ragged gasps for breath as she tried to swim towards James, who was drifting helplessly, his movements sluggish and uncoordinated. On board the yacht, the crew had become aware of the unfolding crisis. Captain Roberts, a seasoned seafarer with years of maritime experience, sounded the alarm as crew members rushed to deploy the emergency protocols. A rescue boat was swiftly launched into the water, its powerful searchlights piercing the darkness as it sped toward the swimmers. The time seemed to blur as the injured guests struggled to stay conscious. Emma, her vision blurred and her limbs growing numb, felt a surge of relief as the rescue boat approached. Crew members, clad in protective gear, pulled her aboard with practiced efficiency, administering emergency first aid to counteract the venom's effects. Sophia and James were soon rescued as well, their bodies trembling with shock and pain. They were quickly transported to the nearest hospital, where medical staff stood ready to administer life-saving treatment. In the emergency room, doctors and nurses worked swiftly to counteract the effects of the jellyfish venom. Emma's leg was treated with antivenom, and the sharp pain gradually subsided as the medication took effect. Sophia, her arm swollen and inflamed from multiple stings, received immediate attention to neutralize the venom and alleviate her suffering. James, with burns around his eyes and mouth, underwent delicate procedures to cleanse the affected areas and prevent further damage. The hospital staff worked tirelessly to stabilize their conditions, monitoring their vital signs with meticulous care. As the hours ticked by, their bodies slowly began to recover from the ordeal. Emma, Sophia, and James were kept under observation overnight, and the supportive care of the medical team aided their recovery. By morning, the worst of the crisis had passed. They were weak and exhausted, but alive, grateful for the quick response of those who had come to their rescue. Back on board, a somber mood settled over the party. Guests gathered anxiously on deck, their concerns palpable as they waited for news of their friend's condition. Captain Roberts addressed the group, his voice steady as he reassured them of the crew's swift and effective response to the emergency. Reflecting on the harrowing experience, the three were left with a newfound respect for the ocean's unpredictable nature. What had begun as a leisurely swim had turned into a fight for survival against a creature they had underestimated. They vowed never to venture into the water without heeding warnings of potential dangers, recognizing that even the most serene environments could harbor unseen threats. As they were discharged from the hospital, Emma, Sophia, and James exchanged solemn glances. They knew they had been fortunate to escape with their lives. The memory of the jellyfish's venomous sting would linger as a reminder of their vulnerability and the resilience that had carried them through a brush with mortality in the depths of the sea. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the verdant canopy of the Amazon rainforest. A group of eager eco-tourists gathered on the muddy banks of a winding river, their kayaks bobbing gently in the current. They had come from distant corners of the globe, drawn by the allure of the world's most diverse ecosystem, where every bend of the river promised adventure and discovery. Among them was Sarah, a spirited wildlife photographer from California with a penchant for capturing elusive jungle creatures through her lens. Diego, an environmentalist from Argentina who had dedicated his life to protecting endangered species. And Maya, an adventurous backpacker from Germany, whose wanderlust had led her to the heart of the Amazon. They were joined by a handful of other travelers, each with their reasons for embarking on this journey into the unknown. Their guide, Juan, a weathered Amazonian native with deep knowledge of the river's secrets, stood at the water's edge, his gaze scanning the dense foliage that lined the riverbanks. He had spent his entire life navigating these waters, attuned to the subtlest shifts in the jungle's rhythms. With a silent nod from Juan, the group pushed off from shore, their paddles slicing through the murky waters. The river, swollen with recent rains, flowed swiftly around them, carrying them deeper into the heart of the rainforest. As they ventured further into the labyrinthine network of waterways, the jungle closed in around them like a living, breathing entity. Vines hung low over the water, forming a natural canopy that filtered the dappled sunlight. The air was thick with the earthy scent of damp foliage and the din of unseen creatures. Sarah, her camera poised and ready, captured snapshots of the wildlife that thrived along the riverbanks. As they rounded a bend in the river, Juan's keen eyes caught movement on the opposite shore, a ripple in the water that betrayed the presence of a giant black caiman, a formidable predator known to lurk in these waters. The caiman, its sleek form barely visible beneath the surface, had sensed the intruders in its domain and now watched with predatory patience. Sarah was caught up in the thrill of photographing a passing troop of monkeys and unaware of the danger lurking just yards away. She leaned over the side of her kayak, adjusting her camera settings to capture a particularly elusive howler monkey high in the canopy. In that moment of distraction, the caiman struck. With lightning speed, the caiman surged from the water, its mighty jaws snapping shut around Sarah's outstretched arm. She cried out in shock and pain as the creature thrashed in the water, its teeth sinking deep into her flesh. Diego and Juan reacted instantly, their training and instincts kicking into overdrive. Diego maneuvered his kayak alongside Sarah's, gripping her life jacket and pulling with all his strength to free her from the caiman's grasp. Juan, his voice steady despite the urgency of the situation, shouted instructions to the rest of the group, urging them to stay calm and paddle towards the safety of a nearby sandbar. The struggle was fierce and chaotic. Sarah fought to maintain her grip on her camera, her instincts warring with the searing pain in her injured arm. Diego, his muscles straining with exertion, refused to relinquish his hold on her, determined to pull her to safety. The caiman, its eyes fixed on its prey, thrashed violently in the water, its tail lashing out with formidable strength. With a final surge of adrenaline-fueled effort, Diego managed to wrench Sarah free from the caiman's jaws. They scrambled onto the sandbar, gasping for breath and trembling with shock. Juan, ever vigilant, scanned the water for any sign of the caiman's return. His machete, which he couldn't recover then due to the suddenness, became ready should their attacker choose to strike again. Minutes stretched into agonizing hours as the group huddled together on the sandbar, their hearts pounding in their chests. Sarah, her arm throbbing with pain, received first aid from Juan, who applied a makeshift bandage and reassured her with words of calm reassurance. Diego paced the perimeter of their makeshift sanctuary, his eyes never straying from the river where the caiman still lurked. As dusk settled over the rainforest, casting long shadows across the water, Juan decided to call for help. Using a satellite phone carried in a waterproof case, he contacted the nearest outpost and relayed their coordinates, requesting immediate assistance for Sarah's injuries and their precarious situation. Hours later, the distant hum of an approaching motorboat broke the stillness of the jungle night. Relief washed over the group as a team of rescue workers arrived, their faces grim with determination as they assessed the scene. Sarah was carefully loaded onto a stretcher, her arms stabilized and protected from further harm. With Juan's guidance, the group was escorted back to civilization, their ordeal in the wild rivers of the Amazon forever etched in their memories. Sarah, despite her injuries, remained determined to continue her work as a wildlife photographer, her photographs capturing not only the beauty, but also the dangers that lurked in the heart of the rainforest.